Okay, part 2 of the A8 fuel pump install. Got the pump in the housing. Forgot to mention one thing in part 1, and this gasket set is important because you need the gasket that goes on the bottom of the pump housing, which is that guy right there. And I tried this once without it, didn't seat, and I had to pull it back out, order the kit, and do it again. Some people have had luck reusing that. The rest of what comes in the kit is not as critical. This top gasket goes around the top of the housing. The one that's in the car is just as good as this new one. And a bunch of crush washers. And I think 1 or 2 of these O-rings go on the little pickup tube. I'll check that in just a second. Yeah, the only other thing that I've used so far is one of the new O-rings that came in the gasket set. Goes right on the bottom of that pickup tube. The original one was black. This one's like a reddish color. So I pop that on, and the crush washers I'll use inside the trunk. So this housing is ready to go, so let me go do that. Okay, that's where the pickup tube needs to seat. This is the big mystery, and this is the thing that winds up getting botched more times than not. And I think this is a foolproof way to eliminate that. So I rigged up my borescope. You can see the light shining on it. If I move over here, I came in through the driver's side, pulled that other sending unit out. There it is on the scope. So now when I put the pump in, now I don't know if I'm going to be able to film this and show it to you at the same time, but the Bentley directions are pretty good. And it's just a matter of rotating and pushing down. But with this setup, if you've got a scope or you're thinking about buying one, this is the perfect job to do it. They're pretty cheap now. Now I can watch it fall into place, and then I know it's right. Alright, this is probably going to be really hard to see, but if you look in the upper left-hand corner, I don't know how the focus is going to be on this. I'm going to pick this up a little bit so that the pump is in now, and if I lift it, you can actually see that white part. That's dropping down into that pickup tube. And you know it's right because the pump sits nice and flush. So the key is to make sure there's one thing that you could easily miss in the Bentley, or Elsa if you're using that. When you drop the pump in, don't put that big rubber gasket back. You have to do this part first. And when it sits flush, you know you've got it right. So it feels right, and I could see it drop in, so I know I've got it. So now I just need to button it all up. So the setup here with the scope, it's optional. Some people have gotten away without doing it. I think I had it right the first time, but if you have a scope, this will make sure you do it right. Actually, here's a better shot. So I just pulled the directions are pull the pump up 40 millimeters to insert the gasket, and you can see it's sort of stuck in there, so I know I've got it. Alright, pretty close to giving this a test run. I got this side buttoned up. Struggled a little bit. That fuel line fitting is got a little bit of flex, but I just couldn't get that bolt, that through bolt, to line up. So it took me about 15 minutes to finally get that to a point where I could thread it in. You don't want to strip that because then you're really stuck. That's part of the housing, so I was real careful with that. So I'm just going to button up, put this fuel sender back in, and then fire it up, and I should be done. Alright, first time I did it, it didn't work. Ran for a couple minutes on the pump, and then it ran out of gas. So came back, there was one thing that was kind of bugging me, which of course I let go, and I'm pretty sure this was the problem. When you put that big O-ring, that seal underneath the pump housing, you can't let that lock ring draw it down. It's got to be flush. So you're probably going to have to go around and work it a few times with a screwdriver to get it. It doesn't just drop in. You really have to pry it and play with it a little bit. So that white pump housing needs to drop down flush. So I think that seat wasn't what am I trying to say? That pickup wasn't seated low enough, probably sucking some air. So let me put it back together, try again. Alright, I just took it for a test drive. Everything looks good. I've got a little over a quarter of a tank, and it seems to be running fine, so I'll get it down a little lower, get it down to an eighth, fill it up, and should be good to go. So I left these covers off for the test drive. Probably not a bad idea. Just make sure that fuel line fitting doesn't leak, or that return line. Slap the covers back on, and I should be all set. Any questions, post them here, and I'll get back to you.